Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's great to follow my honourable friend from East Antrim with his siren warnings as to what could happen over the coming weeks and months if we don't listen. I understand people are talking to the DUP. It's about time people started listening to the DUP, and that's a huge difference in what's happening. I'm not one of the MPs who's stood up and waxed lyrical on this issue over the past 2 years, like some members in this chamber. There's barely a debate gone by without certain members standing up and sharing their beliefs as to what they believe is right. And I've heard lots today spoken about honesty and transparency and treating people like adults. Well, that's a good idea, because in 2016 we had a people's vote. For anybody to even suggest that another referendum would be the people's vote because the last one wasn't is totally and wholly fraudulent. It's ridiculous. A people's vote was held in 2016. We allowed it to be held, the members of Parliament in that Parliament then, and it was held. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't what people thought was going to happen in the main. I remember watching the result. There's no exit poll. The pound is up, shares are up. Nigel Farage has conceded defeat. And then, of course, the results started coming in. Now, people who live within the bubble of London could be forgiven for thinking that Remain was going to win. But what happened, of course, swathes of people in the North East, the North West, the South West, who feel as if nobody is listening to them, that they're the invisible people. But thanks to David Cameron, they were given a voice. And they used that voice, and the voice said leave. And now all of a sudden they're facing this Parliament, whereby this Parliament is talking about, not only don't we see you, now we've decided not to listen to you. And that is wholly dangerous. Wholly dangerous indeed. When we give a referendum, we really do need to respect the results. When I was a shadow minister, Wales had a referendum on devolution. The result, in 1997, 50.3% in favour, 49.7% against, on a 50.1% turnout. And what did we do? We conceded. It was about under 7,000, actually, the difference between yes and no. But we conceded that that's what should happen, and devolution was given to the people of Wales. It would have been wholly wrong had we not done so. Yes, I'll give way to my honourable friend.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. Does he not agree that one of the reasons people voted to leave is that the practice of the EU is when a country has a referendum and comes up with a result it doesn't like, is patronisingly patted on the head and told to go away and come up with a different result, the one that the EU agrees with? Isn't that what certain people are now telling us that we should be doing, which is why we wanted to get out of the EU in the first place?
It's worse than that. It's worse, because there again, let's go honesty and treat people like adults. The people's vote, right? Because we didn't have one last time when 35 million people voted. What should be the options? Oh, from the honourable member from Putney. 3. Vote for the deal that the government's got, which I hardly speak to anybody who thinks it's any good. Then there is the cliff edge, which most people believe can be avoided and really don't want. Or they stay in the European Union, which the people rejected in 2016. So that's not fair. Just because, I mean, let's be honest again, in this Parliament, we are told that we can't get to a decision that everybody will agree with. We have to accept that during the referendum, the vast majority of members of Parliament voted and campaigned for Remain. We are in a Remain Parliament, which happens to reside in a Leave country. And I think it's wholly dangerous for us to turn to the people now and say, you let us down. You got it wrong. Do you know what else is said about people who voted Leave? That they were a bit thick, that they didn't know what they were voting for, and we've had intimations of maybe they were racist. Well, no, they weren't. They weren't racist. Immigration was only part of it, but the sovereignty of making decisions in this Parliament, which is what it was all about, immigration being part of that. I'll give way to the honourable lady.
I thank the honourable member for giving way. But would he agree with me that following the Welsh devolution debate, there was not a public inquiry required into the funding of the various campaigns, and that there was not, at that point, the technological advances and the questionable use of Facebook and other social media because of the number of years which have elapsed. So it's not really comparing apples with apples.
Well, it is apples and apples, and it's just simply because there are people here who are now using any excuse to try and ignore the result, to try and turn it over because they didn't like the campaign, they think that people lied on one side or the other, and in fact, those accusations are levelled at both campaigns. And don't forget, on top of that, the government spent £9.3 million on a brochure that they sent to every household in this country using taxpayers' money, propaganda to try and convince them into voting Remain. And on the back of that pamphlet, I objected to the pamphlet at the beginning, but on the back of it, David Cameron put one paragraph that said, "We will accept the verdict of the British people." So I say to people in this chamber, please be careful what you wish for, because I believe the electorate will be incredibly angry if we were to try and to do that. In Lancashire, whether it was Labour seats or Conservative seats, every constituency voted to leave the European Union. And we want our voices heard. Now, if I could just move on to the problem that we've got with the Attorney General's advice, and I do really have specific problems with the backstop. The more I've read this advice, the more I dislike it. I didn't like it before, but now I like it even less. I love the mentions of good faith and best endeavours. The last time I heard best endeavours, I was a boy cub. Really, is that the best we can try for? And I did hear the Prime Minister say that we will not have any borders down the Irish Sea when explicitly this is what is now going to happen. I am very, very unhappy with that, although I did listen to the Prime Minister at Question Time today, and I got some sort of hope from what she responded to one of the questions as to what's going to happen on Tuesday if it gets voted down. Now, we all know that I've got more chance of winning BBC Bake Off than the Prime Minister has of getting this through. Well, strictly no. I mean, I can't cook and I can't dance. That doesn't stop the Prime Minister, but anyway, it would certainly stop me. That was a joke. No. But my career stopped a long time ago, I can assure them. But she did say that she was going to look at this, and I think the backstop is clearly a problem. And it does need to be looked at for a number of reasons. We need to be able to unilaterally leave the European Union because that's what the vote was in 2016. At the moment, we can do so. If we were to sign this withdrawal agreement, funnily enough, we're handing that power away. All of a sudden, we're unable unilaterally to leave the European Union, and that's not what the people voted. They voted to take back control, not to give it away. And so I think that that is a real issue. As far as this particular agreement is concerned, I mean, I suppose the conclusion, more than anything else, although it's dripping with problems, as has been intimated by our friends from the DUP, and quite frankly, without the DUP, if the miracle were to happen on 34th Street and we were going to get this through, then that's the last thing we're going to get through for a long while, because we've lost our support from the people who are keeping us in power. So let's think long and hard about that. But right at the end, it's in the conclusion, it says, in the absence of a right of termination, there is a legal risk that the United Kingdom might become subject to protracted and repeating rounds of negotiations. Think about it. We just simply do not know when that... Not only are we treating Northern Ireland differently, but we don't know how long it's going to last. Is that where we want to be? Is that what the British people voted for in 2016? I do not think so. I've heard a rumour that the Prime Minister is thinking about a change by saying that perhaps Parliament should be able to vote to put us into the backstop, giving Parliament that power. I don't want that power. Getting into the backstop isn't the problem. It's getting out of the backstop that is the problem. That's where we need to be making the decision in this Parliament, to be able to have that decision, to say, thank you, we're leaving. Harold Wilson said, politics is the art of the possible. And now, and Rab Butler as well, well, he probably paraphrased him. All I can say is, over to you, Prime Minister. Let's see where the art of the possible takes us on Tuesday, but for goodness sake, don't take this to defeat.